All right. Well, welcome. If you're watching this either live or on the replay, then I know you're a woman who might be wondering why money feels harder than it should. Sometimes money feels heavy, or it feels inconsistent, or it feels like it's out of your control. And I'm here to tell you that the good news is you're not broken and you're not bad with money. Dun, dun. A lot of the advice out there assumes that we should have the same energy and the same focus, the same confidence levels, the same decision-making ability all of the time. Most of us know from lived experience that that is not how it works. We have up days, we have down days, we have productive days, we have headache or stay in bed days. You get the idea. We are not designed for the 24-hour cycles and calendar that society expects, which is why things can feel so chaotic or out of whack sometimes. Not only that, but when we try to live that way, we feel like we're failing and then we tend to beat ourselves up over it. Unfortunately, we make ourselves wrong for being inconsistent. We call ourselves lazy or worse, when really we are just trying to use the same approach in every single season. We're trying to be the same person each day. We're trying to have the same energy levels each day, and we're trying to be in the same frame of mind each day because that's how they taught us. That's what's expected. That's what people in this day and age are kind of trained to be. Now, but before we get into all of that, let me tell you a little bit about myself and who I am and why you should listen to me. My name is Jessica Kleine, and I am a money coach specifically for women. I've been in the coaching space for over 6 years, but I have spent decades working on my own issues with money, both in and out of business. Not only that, but I've also spent most of my life in personal development. I grew up listening to Zig Ziglar tapes. Yes, tapes, that ages me right there. I've taken a ton of different courses, I've gone to conferences, I've read all the books, and I've done a lot of experimenting over the years. And through all of that, I figured out a lot of things when it comes to money and abundance. So then I take that information and then I share it with you. I'm also a homeschool mom, a competitive archer, and a fantasy nerd. You're going to see me a lot of times referencing Harry Potter or dragons because those are some of my favorite things. Now, my coaching business itself has evolved over the years. I started out very heavy in the numbers, but then I quickly realized that that's not the whole story. In the beginning, it was all about budgeting and bookkeeping and making the numbers work. But now I use three different elements together to help my clients and myself, actually. We have three different elements that I use in my money coaching. We have the money side, which is the practical side. That's the structure, the systems, the actual numbers. This is your budgeting, this is your bookkeeping. These are the actions that you take when it comes to money. Mindset is the stories and the beliefs. This is your thought patterns. This is how you see yourself with money, your money identity, your sacred money archetype. Those all fit in the mindset element. And then finally, the missing piece that took me a while to figure out is the magic side of it. This is the energy, the emotions you have about it, all of the feelings that money brings up with you. It's also your nervous system, it's different patterns, and it's different cycles that you live through. This masterclass is a small taste of what the magic element is like. Now, I'm going to be using seasons as the main framework, and I'm going to loosely connect them to also hormone phases and moon phases. Not because they're all identical, but this gives kind of a framework that everybody can understand a little bit better. I want all women to be able to have a way to see how this works for themselves. Each season is also related to the hormone cycles and to a moon cycle. So if you're someone who, has a monthly cycle that you track, you'll be able to find the consistencies here. Maybe you're someone who likes to look at the moon and track things that way. You can find consistencies there. But everybody understands seasons, so that's what we're going to use today. I have spent over 2 decades tracking myself, beginning with my fertility treatment days. I used to track everything from physical symptoms and temperatures and like all sorts of things that you could put on charts. I also started tracking moods and energy levels, as well as finances and everything else. Now, most recently, I focused on tracking myself in the same ways with mood and energy and mindset when it comes to money and business. I saw patterns in myself that I then was able to recognize and see in my clients. And now that's what I'm here sharing with you. Now, if you popped in, I had one or two people pop in a little bit later. If you're here, I want you to know if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat and I'll go through all the questions at the end. But the goal of this whole presentation here is not to fit yourself into a system perfectly, okay? The goal is to be able to notice your palette patterns well enough to work with them instead of against them. You're wanting to pay attention to your patterns, but not try to make them perfect because no two women are going to be the same. This is more of like a guideline or a framework and a way to get started. The biggest thing to remember is that we can do better when we know better. And being nice to ourselves as we go through all of this is key, okay? When you start to recognize your patterns, we fall into the trap of blaming ourselves for things or beating ourselves up over things. The purpose of this is to see the patterns so you can start planning better, not beating yourself up more. Oh no, I'm frozen. There we go. Speaking of frozen, first up, we're going to talk about winter. All right, so again, we're talking in terms of seasons. Winter is kind of the hunker down season. This also relates to the menstrual cycle of your hormones, the actual menstrual phase, as well as the new moon. Winter is time usually where there is lower energy. You're more inward focused. You have less capacity for pretty much everything at this point, whether it's patience or time or energy or anything. You also have less tolerance for noise, for people, for a lot of other things. So for me, this looks like making sure I schedule less meetings and less people and less networking during a winter time of or phase of my life. It means more tea and cookies and blankets and more cozy things. This is why, like New Year's can feel really, really out of alignment with a lot of women. It's in the middle of winter, which is a time for rest, not a time to push new things and to try new things. So, a lot of times when we get into this new year, new you, and all these resolutions, they kind of fall apart after a few weeks because winter's really not the time to be trying those things in a seasonal kind of setting, the way we're discussing today. Now, winter is not bad. And I want to make sure you know that for all of the seasons. There are no bad seasons for any of this that we're doing. This is actually a great season for reviewing your numbers, for simplifying things, for cleaning up some of your systems, and just for noticing what feels draining or unsustainable. Winter tends to be very much a time of truth for us because we are able to see and hear more of our inside. It's not a failure season. It's a rest season. It's a self-care season. And it's also a season to listen. This is a season of, it's a necessary season. If you don't have this time of rest, much like a workout, you work out hard, you have to have that rest and recovery time to actually get the benefits of a workout. Same thing goes with the winter season. Now, in winter, and again, I'm using the winter season, but you can see how it lines up with hormones and moon as well. With your money, you tend to be more cautious with it. It starts to feel harder to spend your money in the winter, and your scarcity probably gets a little bit louder. You start to feel more like there's not enough. You feel like there's there's too much pressure on your money. That's a lot of times what happens during this particular season. Now, in business, it tends to be harder to push or to be more visible in this time of your cycle, month, year, however you're looking at it. This is a great time for review and for simplification, but not a time to try to be the go-getter and to get out there in front of new people. Now, your inner voice is probably saying things like, this feels like too much. We need to be more careful. There's a lot of, again, that inner focused kind of energy and voice that goes along with the winter season. Now, spring is a fresh energy season. That's where we are now. More ideas, more excitement, more possibility, more optimism. This is often when women suddenly want to start all of the things. We want to do all of the projects. We want to clean all of the house. We want to take care of all of the, all of the things that felt undone during the quote unquote winter season. We want to now play catch up and try to fix all of it in the spring. You've probably noticed it in your inbox even. Like suddenly everybody has something new and exciting to sell because this is the time for new beginnings and new ideas. There's a lot more energy, there's more possibility. Now, spring also, as you see in the slide, I have a little pointer thing. How fun. It's also based on your follicular time of your hormone cycle and when the moon is waxing. Now, for a fun fact for you, my new year starts at like the end of March or beginning of April. I mean, not really. Like the IRS doesn't care about my calendar, but January through March is more of like a wrapping up of the year before than an actual new year for me. And it took me a long time to finally, again, find that pattern for myself. I used to always try to start workouts January 1st, just like, 99% of the rest of the world. And every year I would beat myself up because I couldn't make it stick. I finally learned that usually by April 1st, I start my workouts on my own without having to be pushed or prodded or convinced because at that time, it's like my body is ready. So once I noticed the cycle and I noticed my pattern, I didn't have to beat myself up because I didn't feel like working out in January because I knew once it came end of March, early April, I would start it back up again on my own. Now, spring is a great season for starting and planning, but maybe don't say yes to every single shiny idea. In your money, you're going to be much more optimistic during this time. You're going to be more open to investing, for example, buying that program, buying that course, investing in like an actual stock fund or something like that. But you have to be careful because you're feeling so high and, optimistic about everything. It can get really easy to be impulsive with your money during this time. Now, in business, this is a great time for brainstorming. This is the perfect time to start the projects, to plan new offers. This is when you want to start doing outreach and re-engaging with past clients, possible clients. This is the time where you're feeling good, so you're looking forward to seeing and meeting new people. Now, your inner voice starts to get very excited, very much like ooh, let's do this, and this is going to work, and all of those, again, happy, positive kind of things that we think about in the spring when everything is finally done resting and starting to grow. But again, remember, spring is for planting the seeds, not demanding the harvest. Seeds will take time, so you can't really force it, even though you're really excited during this particular time. Now, the summertime is the most outward of seasons. This is when you're more visible, more social, more willing to be seen, more willing to be connecting with other people. I mean, just when we think about summer vacations and all of that, summer is social and fun and active, and it just feels very alive. This is the perfect time for visibility. This is when your confidence is the highest. This is when momentum really starts to build in your life. This is usually your best season for visibility. So this is when you want to get up on those stages. This is when you want to do those workshops. This is when you want to be at all the networking events. This is when momentum is going to be high, and it's also better for receiving during this time. You're more open to all of that. But again, you don't want to build your whole life around summer capacity and summer energy. So for your money, you're going to feel more generous. You're going to be more willing to spend your money, more willing to help others. And as I mentioned before, it's easier to receive during your summer cycle. For business, this is the perfect time for launches if you're somebody that plans ahead. This is when you want to have those sales conversations because your charisma is going to be your highest in the summer and people are attracted and magnetized to you. This is perfect for networking. This is perfect for teaching. This is when you want to be collaborating with other people. This is when your inner voice is like that cheerleader, like, let's go, and I can do this, and this is so fun, and it just kind of keeps going and going and going. Summer is a super powerful season, but it's not meant to be permanent. This is where hustle culture comes from. Hustle culture is based around a 24/7 summer. It's not sustainable. No matter how much we want it to be, no matter how much we will it to be, we cannot live in summer year round. It's exhausting. Now, autumn. Autumn is funny because it's my favorite month. Like in the physical world here, autumn is my favorite month. But also, there's a side of autumn that gets a little touchy. This is when you kind of get a little bit sharper with your vision. This is when you notice when things are off. Your tolerance tends to drop. Things that you ignored during those super fun spring and summer months suddenly feel very, very loud to you. This is when boundaries all of a sudden that were maybe being bent for others, you want to snap right back into place. This is a very honest time. And this is like when people talk about PMSing, yes, that is an autumn thing. Okay. Now, the goal here for your autumn season is to be able to use discernment without turning it into some kind of an attack on yourself. Okay. This is the time when we tend to beat ourselves up the most over what we did or did not do during our fun little spring or summer times. Okay. Autumn isn't a time where you're not too much during autumn. A lot of people start to feel bad about how they react to other people. This is where your wisdom actually gets a little bit sharper and it gets a little bit clearer, and you start to realize what's for you and what's not for you. And again, this is when our boundaries need to be really, really well placed, both on ourselves and on other people. This is the season when doubt starts to creep in. This is the season when you wonder if you're doing enough. This is when you start to question if you really have what it takes. Autumn is a season for a lot of people when frustration starts to happen. Now, it's also the harvest season. Yes, that's when all of those seeds you planted can start being harvested. But if the harvest doesn't look the way you were hoping, this is kind of where the frustration starts to build. Now, this is also the time when kindness to ourselves needs to be front and center. Remember, we just left those summer months when we had all of this energy and all of this fun and all of this peopling. This autumn is building up to that time of rest again, so you need to be gentle with yourself and remember, summer comes back around again. This is the time to start to collect all of the bits and pieces of what we've planted from before. So, in your money, during the autumn, spending shame gets louder. It tends to anyway. That generosity that you had in the summer, that optimism from in the spring, at this point, you might have some regrets. It's easier to notice when there's leaks in your energy, in your money, in your relationships. It's easier to notice wasteful spending. It's easier, again, to regret what you did prior to when you were feeling super high. Now that your energy's dipping and things are feeling a little lower, we tend to get into regret. And again, we start to beat ourselves up. This is also when your money, you start to look at it closer, or you potentially can. You have a lot more scrutiny with yourself and with where your dollars are going. Now, for your business, this is a good time for editing, okay? This is a good time for reviewing what worked already. This is a time to see, okay, what did I do in the quote unquote spring and summer that worked? What didn't work? And how can I make it better? This is when you can tighten down your systems. And again, setting boundaries is going to be key during this particular time of the season. Your inner voice is going to ask a lot of questions, and it's going to be kind of mean this time. Why did I say yes to that? Or this isn't working, or something needs to change. There's a lot of inner chit chat that happens, and the voice of Autumn is not always the friendliest. In the beginning, she's okay, but as Autumn gets a little deeper, she could get a little rough. So, one of the biggest things I want you to take away is this: your money mindset is not a single fixed voice, okay? We talk about mindset as we have abundance mindsets that we know are growth mindsets, and there's all about change and all about that. And we assume that when you change, you kind of stay at that new level. That's not really the way this works. Your money mindset, your inner voices, they shift with your energy, they shift with your different seasons, they shift with your capacity, and they shift with your different situations. These are patterns that we can track. These are things that we can start to see. And when we have those high and low voices, we can start to understand a little bit more why they're there. Sometimes that voice is going to be nicer than others. Your job is to notice which voice is running the show and track the patterns. We all have patterns. Some of us may be more regular or irregular than others, but if you pay attention, you can see them. You have the ability to be able to track things over time and start to notice, oh, if I have a week where I'm feeling this, then usually 3.5 weeks later, I feel like that. Okay. Now, each of these different seasons have different kind of flavors to the voice. You know, winter tends to be cautious and scarcity tends to feel higher. Spring is hopeful, but a little bit impulsive sometimes. Summer, you're feeling generous and you're feeling bold and high energy. And then autumn, the voice tends to be more discerning and more critical. Once you understand the flavor of the voice that you're hearing in your head and you can connect it with the season, it makes it a little bit easier to start to plan ahead when you're moving forward. Big caveat here. Cycles are not excuses, okay? Cycles are data. This isn't about handing your power over to a cycle and now becoming a victim of this is just the way I am. These are my patterns. I'm at this point in my cycle, so the world is ending. You know, that's not what this is. This is about taking your power back through the awareness of knowing where you are in these different cycles. Your job is to notice the season that you're in, to be able to adjust your expectations based on that season, be able to align your decisions and your actions with your energy capacity, with where your head is, with where your little inner voice is sounding, and stop making yourself wrong when you're in a season that maybe you need to be pausing instead of pushing. Now, if you take just one thing from this whole little set of slides, besides awareness, because awareness is always the first step, what I want you to do is to start tracking, okay? You do not need a fancy system. You just need to start noticing what's happening and when. You can mark things on your calendar or on a planner. For a long time, I used to color code days. I would have highlighters, and if it was a good day, it was green. If it was a bad day, it was red. Like I would just color code things so you could see at a glance to see if you could start noticing the patterns. If you want a tracker, I have a Google Sheet that you can use. That's what the QR code is right there. It has a space to track mood, energy, and productivity, which is sometimes the best things to start with when you're tracking. There's a whole list here. Please don't try and track every single one of those things because you will give up very quickly. Pick one, two, maybe three things to start tracking and just see where you go. That QR code leads to the tracker. Just have to save a copy for yourself. I'm also going to put a link in the email where I send this replay afterwards. But the big thing here again is we don't want you to judge, but we want to notice, okay? We want to notice what's going on with our head. We want to notice what's going on with our energy. We want to notice what's going on with our money. And you have to notice it over time. You can't see a pattern after a day or even really a month. This is something that takes some time and some awareness and some practice to build it, to remember to look for the information you're looking for. You need to make sure that you are being patient with yourself as you're figuring out, okay? All right, so I added some reflection questions if you want to screenshot this. These questions are meant to help you build self-trust. This is not to try to make you be perfect. This is not you trying to control every single part of your life. This is about trusting yourself in your different seasons. This is where you can take the data from tracking and you can figure out what it actually means for you. Remember, the seasons are not a rule book. They are a guide to understanding yourself better. Your own patterns may not light up exactly the same as how I have laid them out here, okay? I understand not everybody has the same kind of month all the time. Not everybody is on a 28-day moon cycle like the moon is. Um, but that's okay. The goal is to figure out what your pattern is. These are kind of, again, guidelines to show you the different types of patterns or the different seasons that are out there so that you can figure out what your pattern looks like. So a lot of what feels random or frustrating starts to make more sense when you start tracking and noticing patterns, okay? You realize maybe that you always spend a little extra at Target around the same time each month, and then you beat yourself up over it a week or two later. You notice you have some days where your content just fills up your brain like a fire hose and you can't get enough stuff out there for people. And then there's other days that you can't come up with words that sound like English, okay? We've all been there. Sometimes you thrive on following up with clients and talking to people and being out there. And then other times you'd rather gouge your eyes out with a stick. You're not broken. You're just simply out of sync with the cycle that you're in. And you're focusing on tasks that are probably better meant for other times. Again, find the pattern and then you can start to plan accordingly. All right. So seasonal and monthly tracking is a tool you can use to start noticing patterns on your own. It's fairly simple. Everybody can do that. An inner compass session is where we go deeper into the patterns that might be harder for you to see, into your money story and what's really going on beneath the surface. These are deep patterns that a lot of times you don't notice yourself because you're living them. This session includes one-on-one time together where you get to unload everything that's weighing on you as it relates to money. A lot of times we dig into business, we dig into family, we dig into relationships. I kind of release the wheel of the conversation and let you talk. And as you're talking, I'm able to collect the different threads and the different strings and start to tie them together. I find those patterns after our conversation, and then I share them with you. After this 90-minute session, you get a detailed, personalized report with what I'm seeing. I enjoy diving deep and figuring out like where in your childhood does this come from and what happened on this thing 5 years ago when all of a sudden stuff fell off the rails. My job is to collect all of those different threads together and wind them into a picture so that you can see better why you are doing the things that you're doing. These sessions are currently $300. And if you book a time in May, you're also going to receive a bonus 15-minute follow-up call so that after you get your report, if you have any questions, if you want some more clarity, if you want more information, that's what that call is for. Okay. There's a QR code right there that you can scan for more information. And the website is also there that I will also be sending in an email with this replay. So if you're not sure what to expect, I get it. Here's what a couple of my clients have told me after doing inner compass sessions. One client said, I'm in awe of what Jessica gathered from a 90-minute inner compass session. The biggest result was awareness, and it was beyond powerful. Jessica helped me see patterns in my behavior that were there all along, and it was eye-opening in the best way. I felt seen and understood, not judged. I feel like that alone has given me the confidence to make the right changes. And then another client said, you were really able to see me. It's been powerful to recognize and name things that were just hazy before. And I even felt light and free around money after our conversation. None of this would have come to light without this process. Dun, dun, dun. So I planned for an hour and I never ran through this workshop ahead of time. So I had no idea how long it was going to actually take. So you get all sorts of free time today. But before that, I wanted to open up if there was any questions, if you had some takeaways from this or information that maybe you didn't have before or you didn't learn before. I would love to hear your thoughts. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can see my face. Hello. And no pressure to like do any of that.
I don't ever feel pressure from you.
Oh, good. That's kind of the goal. I never want people
Yeah.
to feel pressure from me. Hello.
Hi.
You with,
I'm
you with
in
your
the middle of
gloves.
a I'm in the middle of a facial, so I'm making my client also listen to your presentation.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hello,
My friend.
client.
She's my friend. I'm like, we gotta listen to this money class from my friend Jessica because she's a money guru and we are gonna learn all the things. Um, do you know what I wanted to say? Is that like I like that you were equating things to seasons, and when you were talking about winter and like essentially just being like, yes. All of it. I was like, yeah, that is how it feels.
hmm
Um, and equally so when you were talking about spring, that's how it feels right now. Like, so like I'm full of ideas. The sun is out. Like I'm so happy. I have like all these thoughts and like goals and man. Anyway, that's what I have to say. Those are my observations. I gotta go back to
I
my
love it.
facial.
It's all gone. Go right ahead. Go back to your facial. Thanks. Yeah, so the
So
season thing,
cute.
it's crazy. Like the calendars are set up based on 24, like there's a whole other conversation that can happen with how society has set up and how we're not set up for women and all of that stuff because we're not meant to be the same every single day, whereas men, they have a 24-hour hormone cycle, so they can do the same stuff every day. And unfortunately, we've all learned for years and years and years and generations how to do things the man way, and we're expected to fit into that mold, and that's not really the way that women are set up. So once we can understand the cycles that we have, like again, seasons, yes, and we can break that down into our monthly cycles, and we can find the different seasons there, and we can start to see a little bit better than, okay, I like for me, I block off my whole winter week. You cannot book a call on my calendar. I started doing that years and years ago when I first started figuring this out. So the only
Mm.
people who can talk to me during that time are actual clients because we meet once a week.
Oh,
So start
okay.
blocking off your calendar. If your winter is kind of a rough time, block it off and don't let people get on it. I tend to schedule like content creation days in what would be my spring. So usually days, I actually have it written down somewhere. It's like days 12 to 15. Oh, here it is. Days 8 to 13 of my, because I track my cycle. That's my brainstorming and my planning days. Days 14 to 17-ish are when I tend to do most of my creating. So if you were to ever like follow me, I schedule things on social media now so it's spread out a little bit more. But in the beginning, it would be funny because you would see me, I would do post, 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 post for like 3 or 4 days. You would see me everywhere and then it would vanish for the rest of the month. And that's because I was in the creation mode of the cycle
Mm,
and I would just spit it all out there. Now I take that creation mode and I spread it out and I schedule stuff so that in my winter, I'm still
yes.
showing up, even if I'm not showing up.
Yeah. Sorry, my body can't decide if I'm hot or cold. Now I might.
Same. It's all good.
Um, that is so super fascinating. I'm I'm feeling like I don't know, I'm just curious right now. Like I'm
Mhm.
processing everything. But this is so cool because women, especially like women in business, right? We tend to look at men as a guide. And they're super hustle, like just get it done and do this. And you're
Mhm.
supposed to be the same every day. And why aren't you the same this day? And yesterday you were. And it's like, because I don't feel the same as I did yesterday.
Exactly.
It's
Like to,
so that I never thought of it like that though. I
hmm
just thought I was, like you said earlier, inconsistent.
Yep, because
And then
that's
you
what
get
we're told.
frustrated. Yeah. And then you get frustrated because you're like, well, I'm inconsistent. How do I get consistent?
hmm
You can't.
No,
I
you
This
can't.
is so interesting.
Yeah.
You need, I'm gonna say it again, you need to do a podcast and talk about these seasons because like this is a whole new way of thinking. So now I'm like, well, what
Agree.
do I do?
Well, and it's funny because like I have been doing this for years and years and years and years and years. Like I have been learning about it because like from my teenage years, I have very like I it's no good. So I've learned to schedule my life around it anyway.
Yeah,
But as I got older and I started, because I would just track physical, like, oh, I know I'm not going to be feeling good for this week, and that was it. But the last decade or so is when I started noticing my moods and my energy and my productivity. And by tracking all of that, I was able to figure out where it fits
yeah,
in my cycles. Now, as we're moving into this next phase of life, I have no idea what that's going to look like, which is why I talked about it as seasons, because I don't know yet. But so far,
right.
I know, like, okay, during this time of the month, I'm only doing these kind of activities. Because when you understand, again, when you understand the pattern, you know it's going to swing back around. So you don't beat yourself up during this time for being inconsistent because it's going to come back, you know? And that's
Yeah,
probably the biggest takeaway is you're not wrong, you're not broken, you're not inconsistent. You're just trying to force yourself in a box that wasn't meant for you.
right. Goodness.
Yep.
Question. I do have another question.
Yeah.
Um, so I know like actual physical seasons, right? And our
hmm
bodies are biological, so naturally we go along with those
Correct.
natural seasons
Yep.
as it, I'm sure it was way back before.
hmm
Um, So is that how our money spending or really anything in our life is? So like right now during actual spring, we should be in an actual spring in our money cycle or like
Yes and
how
no.
does
I
that work?
feel my opinion on this, because I don't have a solid answer. My opinion is the actual seasons are like big picture. But
Okay.
then inside of your act, so inside of spring, you're probably going to have three springs,
Mini.
like
Yeah,
physical
okay.
springs, okay? So your winter in this spring season might not feel as heavy as the winter in the winter season. Does that make
Sure.
sense?
Okay, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So yes, for the most part, because it like this is the time I want to buy all the stuff for a garden and I want to do all the things for outside and all of that. So I definitely feel spendier now than I was during, January, February when everything's dead and I just feel like a lump sitting on a log. But inside of my spring, there will be the weeks of like, I can't touch anything. Like, we're not going to spend any money type stuff. So
Sure.
there's the big season cycle, yes, that I think we all follow. But then inside of that big, there's still our personal cycles that then also follow, which is why you
Hmm.
we won't all be on the same page at the same time.
Sure. I also wonder too, and this has probably nothing to do with this call, but it kind of does. But it's just something that I like. Is that why, like, Christmas, spending money at Christmas is so, like, buying gifts? I mean, I feel really bad saying this, but buying gifts is a
Don't worry, you're
chore.
just being recorded. No, I'm just
I
kidding.
know, but oh well, maybe other people will be like, hey, I feel the same
It
way. Is
is.
that why it feels like a chore? Because you're spending all this money and it's like the winter. And you're like,
hmm
I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to sit by the tree and
hmm
just be. chill.
Yeah, it very well could be. And again, but there's so much
I thought
pressure
of it
to
like
do
that.
it that we do it anyway. I have gotten very good about getting rid of obligation spending. Like
Mhm.
I have done a lot of work on myself over the past probably decade, but especially the last 5 years of my boundaries, knowing where I'm at, knowing what is going to help me versus not help me, and kind of that's what happens in your 40s is you suddenly realize, oh, I can do what I want and I don't have to follow all of these stupid rules anymore. So that's right.
Right. Yeah. So for like my family, my household right now has been in a winter for probably like 7 months or so.
Hmm.
And this Christmas was actually one of the best Christmases because it was like we don't have a ton to spend like we used to.
Hmm.
And you know what? Everybody gets like one or two, good
Yeah.
gifts. And of course they're older, so they
Yeah.
they appreciate just the season anyway more than they did. But it was like one or two gifts and that was it. And it was glorious.
Yeah. Because we release the pressure of the I have to or I should or
Yeah.
the obligation because all of that is very heavy. Like
Yeah.
we don't want
But
to be
like being
heavy.
together, like that's
Yep.
not heavy. That's just so much fun. And it's
Hmm.
like so nice when you actually put and in any case, like in any season, right? It's nice when you just put your focus on that. And then, yeah, that's so interesting because I'm thinking of it now. And yeah, during the spring, I'm like, let's go out to lunch. I found a cool mug that I bought you. Like we need more
Hmm.
mugs. But yeah, oh, that's so fascinating.
Yeah. And it's just
Christmas should be in the spring.
right. Well, and that's like I said, New Year's does not belong when New Year's is. Somebody made up a calendar one
Yeah.
day and said, this is when it's going to be, but they didn't consult the wise women who are like, that's dumb. We should not do that. So, yeah.
They don't
100%.
consult women on a lot of things. Like, can we talk about BMI and how it's based on a man and not a
Uh-huh.
woman?
Yeah. Well, and that's what's so fascinating to me. And that's why, like, I get super fired up about all this now because I would never have considered myself to be a feminist. But over
Mm.
the last handful of years, I'm like, hold up. So it's just, again, I have men, like, I have no problems with men. I love my husband. He's wonderful
Yeah.
and all of that. But also, the way society has been structured is not helpful to women in any way, shape, or form. And we just keep repeating the cycles because we don't know any better. But once we can
Right.
understand and we can see it and we understand it, you can kind of start doing your own little mini like resistance to, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna do I have done that, but like my husband knows, like if I mark it on my calendar so he can see, so he knows not to make plans during particular times. Because if he asks me, oh, do you want to go do this? And he makes plans, I will say no because I know myself
Because you
now.
don't, yeah. Yeah.
So that's the key, understanding yourself and what
Right.
you do in these seasons, independent from everybody else. Because again, your season's going to be different from somebody else's season ish, but they all follow the same general flow, you know?
Right. So I have a question. If you
Mhm.
have, because I literally had a client today who, no, she's not a client yet. I'm speaking that out loud, like she's gonna
Yep.
be. Um, but it's like, oh, I am not in the mood to talk to new people. So, but
Your
then it's
client
like,
said
what
that.
if I don't call her, then I might lose her as a client. So like, how do you navigate all that?
Well,
Because
first,
really, I
yep.
just want to lay in bed and take a nap. That would
Mhm.
be just the most glorious thing for me today.
Well, first of all, that's like a fear-based thought of like, but if I don't call her, what if she leaves? What if you don't call her and she was busy today anyway? Like,
Um, yeah, no,
again,
that's true.
it takes a
But
little
she called
time.
me.
Well, and even if it's a send a quick text back or something like, hey, I'm not feeling so great today. Can we reconnect tomorrow or the next day or something? Um, once you can start to plan a little better. Not
Okay,
everything is a pattern, not everything is a cycle. There are some days
sure.
that could be your middle of your summer that just you feel like crap. And that happens too. But once you can start figuring out if there is a pattern, you can start to plan ahead better. Like I said, like I block off my calendar so I can't talk to like, nope,
Yeah.
nobody can get on
Hmm.
it. Um, and sometimes I have a migraine and I push through it anyway. If most of my clients know, like, hey, I have a headache, is that okay? Oh yeah, sure, no problem. Like most people are understanding.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, you navigate it kind of as a case by case basis. And
Yeah.
do you feel better by not talking to her and getting it over with, or by sending a quick message and putting it off for another time, you know?
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's interesting.
Good. I'm glad to hear. As I this morning, as I was thinking through this, I was like, I was super pumped about this topic. And also now I am heading into my autumn. So my brain today was like, nobody wants to hear about this. This is dumb. Nobody's going to like it. This is all common knowledge. Like that's what I'm hearing in my head this morning before I jumped on. So I also plan my workshops so that my promotion time for the workshops is when I'm high energy and I want to see people.
Yeah.
Usually the
Yeah.
workshops, I plan it for right in that in between summer and fall stage. So I'm not like super mean to myself yet, but I'm getting there. But then I also have that week of rest built in to like depeople
Yeah.
afterwards. So that's also stuff that you can start kind of planning. The world
Yes.
doesn't, that's what I've been trying to teach my kids. The world doesn't care about our own personal calendars,
No.
but in as many ways as we can, if we can plan around it as best as we can to make sure we save the times where we are high energy, like make sure you schedule time for yourself to do whatever your high energy tasks would be during that particular week or whatever.
Right. Right.
It's again, it's just information is key and data is important and it helps to get over the drama in our heads when we can look back and be like, oh, I know why I'm thinking like I tell that to my kids now because I'll start to complain about something and I'll be like, and I'll get over this in 4 days, so just don't worry about me.
Nice.
Excellent.
Thank you. This
You
was
are
great.
very welcome. Well, good. I am glad to hear it. Um, yeah, I'm going to be sending out the email with the replay. I haven't decided if the questions are going to be in there. I haven't decided how I'm going to edit it or chunk it. If you think anybody else could use this information, let me know. Or pass it along or whatever. But
Yeah. Thank you.
that's all I got for today.
Thank you.
You're
Yeah.
welcome. How do I
As
turn off?
always, you're brilliant.
I am recording, right? Oh, yeah, I am. I was like, oh no, where's my record button? Excellent. All right. Well, you guys have an excellent rest of your day. I gave you
Thanks, you
14
too.
minutes back. And if you have any questions or anything that pops up after you process this a little bit more, reach out. Ask me because I love
Okay.
talking about this stuff.
Okay. Cool.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Right.
Thanks, Jess.
Bye.
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 Bye.